Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the top 10 cards from 2021 that impacted the Dragon Ball Super card game, and we're specifically talking about cards that were released in 2021 because it makes narrowing the card pool down a little bit easier. And if we didn't do it like that, we'd probably talk about Senzu being every single year. So we're going to do it like this, guys. We're also doing this with the help of the community. So this is going to be a combination of my opinions as well as what you guys had to say on the more recent community posts that we did. We are running a giveaway right now that's going to go for about a week. So if you guys want to check that out, go to the community page here on the YouTube channel. You guys can join that giveaway. Anyways, we will get started with this. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. If you guys want to grab any of the cards we talk about in today's video, make sure to use my link in the description to TCG Player. It really does help out the channel. And if you guys want to see me do a video tomorrow talking about the 10 worst cards of 2021, let me know in the comments below. Maybe leave a thought on what some of the worst cards from last year were. I definitely have some fun ideas for that one. Just a little bit of a way to clown on some of the more recent, like, funny bad cards if you guys are interested in that. But anyways, we will get started with this video. The first three cards I want to talk about are a trio of SCRs. These cards have a lot in common, but they also have a lot of things that make them distinct. So firstly, I want to talk about Spring Kai of Time, Space Time Unraveler. This SCR came out in 2021 and really changed the game. Like, there were several formats where this card was able to just single-handedly turn the tide of a match if you happen to draw it. And I'm certain there are going to be more formats like this. Like, basically, Unison Warrior Block made Unison so good and so important, and then we finally got a piece of spot removal that instantaneously just got a Unison out of there. No longer did you have to worry about taking the markers down to 0, which so many decks had to do to play around either the, free negates like Dorm Potential Unleashed, or in order to play around the free counterplays like Freeza Charismatic Villain, Godsling Technique Trunks, all those kinds of things that made Space Time Unraveler just like one of the best SCRs in just about every single deck. And speaking of that, it was really the first like super generically good SCR that you could just play in any deck, and at the time it came out, you probably should be playing it in every single deck. It's just that powerful, that good, that generic. When the Dragon Ball Super boom happened, or I guess like the card game collector's boom in general happened, this card hiked up to about $400 per copy, and people didn't like to pay that price, but nobody really batted an eye in the sense that nobody thought that this card wasn't deserving of that price. The card is just that insane and that powerful. The other cool thing though is that it also prevents aggro from your opponent's Unison and their leader, so that's just really, really good in certain decks, especially back when Reboot Gohan was legal. You could just stop their leader from attacking overall, if you could make it a turn 3, I guess. But the one thing this card really became good for later on, like after it came out and had been out for a few months, was just the fact that it was a 1-drop 40k body. Like, I said it in many deck profiles that I had played this card. The fact of it being a 1-drop 40k was honestly more relevant than popping Unisons or stopping leader and Unison attacks. That part of the effect was just so good for finishing up games, and that's going to be pretty important when we talk about Pan in a minute. But first, I want to talk about Heroine's Lineage. Now, this card is not the strongest card we'll talk about in today's video. In fact, it might be the weakest, although maybe not the weakest. But anyways, the only reason I say that is because this card is not on this list because of how it necessarily impacted the meta, but I love how this card impacted the Dragon Ball Super card game, because it was the first time that players got a budget SCR that was super playable and honestly a lot of times worth playing in every single deck. There's one format that comes to memory. I think it was maybe late set 11 or maybe around there. I can't exactly remember, but I know there was one format where a lot of people, and players on my team included, considered Heroine's Lineage the best SCR of the format, even slightly better than Space Time Unraveler for at least like a format or like half a format. So that's definitely really good there. But yeah, just the fact that it was such a easily accessible budget SCR that any player could have, because you got to keep in mind, like, if you were playing at the time that like all these cards kind of came out near each other, it was a really bad feeling to say, hey, if you guys want to play this game and maybe you want to be a little bit more competitive rather than casual, you kind of have to play this card called an SCR in your deck, and a lot of them are $200 plus. It's a really hard sell to get someone into the game. So you know how many times I've told new players, like, just buy a copy of Heroine's Lineage. It is going to get you so much mileage until you're either ready to, I don't know, invest more into the game, get more competitive with the game, and stuff like that. Like, Heroine's Lineage, for what it did for the community, I think it definitely deserves a spot on this list. And then we have Pan Time Patrol Maiden. So this card is a lot newer to the game, so it's a bit tougher to, like, I guess, you know, give it time to justify just how impactful it's been in the game. But I think just the power level of the card really speaks to how impactful it is and will be throughout the future of the game. Like, this card just came out in time for Nationals, and it was already in most decks over Space Time Unraveler. Now, that could just be due to like meta fluctuations, and I wholeheartedly think there's going to be plenty of formats where it's kind of like a 50-50 whether you play Pan or whether you play Space Time Unraveler. They definitely are good in different scenarios. Like, Space Time Unraveler is definitely just better when you need to clear unisons or you need to halt leader aggression. Pan, though, is just like the baby Hatchiyak that every deck can play. You basically stop all battle cards from attacking for the turn after you use her skill, which is super strong. But back to the thing I said about Space Time Unraveler being a 1-drop 40k, Pan is technically better in that regard because she can be a 0-drop 40k attacker as long as your deck can put out enough battle cards to make her cost 0, right? So these cards, like, they're all generic SCRs that you can play in just about any deck. Again, I love Heroine's Lineage for the fact that it is for the budget players. It is for people who are new to the game. It's great for them. But as far as like powerhouse SCRs go, Pan and Space Time Unraveler have to be two of the best SCRs in the game. And there are many other great SCRs that came out in 2021, so I don't mean to, like, you know, shy away from those, but these two are definitely the best by far. Then we have Zamasu the Eliminator. So with this card, right, you have the first interaction with unisons in the form of counterplay, and that was just insane. Honestly, I hope Bandai does more of this because it really did introduce a super interesting dynamic into the format. Like, don't get me wrong, Blue Yellow Icarus was probably too strong, but I think if you hit Bojack and left this the way it was, I think it probably would have been fine. But anyways, regardless of that, like, yeah, I hope they do more unison kind of like counterplay interaction like this, because it does add a really unique thing to the game where your opponent can't just windmill slam their unison, and the unison's not just the safest thing in the game automatically anymore. Now, if more things like this exist, when you come across a certain matchup, your unison is not as safe as it is against 90% of other matchups, so you had to, like, you know, have the skill to be able to adjust and play a bit differently. And besides that, Zamasu was just the most impactful card of the format that it was unerrated in, so definitely deserves a spot on this list. Then we have SS3 Gogeta, Thwarting the Dark Empire. Man, this card caused so many headaches for so many people. One, because of how difficult it was to get a tournament pack promo that for most of its existence was $100 plus for the most part, which is crazy. But just how powerful this card is and how good it is in, like, basically any black deck. Does not have to be played in Gogeta Xeno deck. You can play it in Vegex, you can play it in Hatchiyak, just about any other black deck you can think of. The card is just so insanely good. Thank goodness, thank you Bandai, that it's getting a reprint finally. It's gonna be very, very accessible for all the players that want to play it. I totally expect more people to pick up Gogeta Xeno, but again, maybe even those other black decks like Vegex, like Hatchiyak, any other black deck that they might want to be playing this card in, you guys should definitely expect to see that a lot more in 2022. And then we have the Mecha Freeza leader. We have to talk about Mecha Freeza here because this situation is just so insane, right? So we had the OG Mecha Freeza leader in set 3. That leader basically saw one full power tournament and then got errated into unplayability. And then some odd number of sets later, they come out with a reboot leader that's technically supposed to be a weaker, more balanced version of that old leader, but turns out it's actually probably stronger than the old leader. You can't play any other extra cards that are non-yellow, at least, you know, for free by the leader effect, but you get to draw on the unawakened side, which the old leader was not able to do. And basically, if you're not a leader that draws the unawakened side anymore, you're probably not super playable within the current context of the Dragon Ball Super meta. But anyways, yeah, this leader was just absolutely bonkers. Again, I think a lot of people would say it's probably better than the OG Mecha Freeza, and it had to be banned. So it's just so funny that they had the original leader, they wanted to make a reboot version that you know, would hopefully be more balanced, and then it would end up to be banned. That's just super, super funny. But yes, of course, one of the most impactful cards of 2021 for that reason. And then we have the power of a Super Saiyan. So I think this card is maybe a little bit iffy, but I think what this card represents is insane, right? So I just remember, like, talking to my teammates when this card was revealed, and this is around the time where people weren't automatically playing 4 copies of Zamasu Super Combo anymore. You were starting to split Zamasu Super Combo with, like, draw Super Combos, or maybe just cut Zamasu altogether. And then they revealed Power of a Super Saiyan. This card was basically a Zamasu Super Combo that could also rest unisons and could be casted for totally free and draw you a card. Like, this card, again, for what it represents for yellow and just like that ability to not have to play Zamasu Super Combo anymore and still have that ability to tap things, is just so ridiculously strong, so absolutely powerful. The fact that this thing is free is pretty much just bonkers. So I think this card definitely deserves a spot on the list. A lot of you guys in the comments as well definitely agreed with that sentiment. And then we have Goku Steadfast Assistance. So this is like Pan, where it's a lot more of a newer card, and it's gonna be tough to really like say just how impactful it was in 2021 because it came out towards the tail end of 2021. But I think this card deserves a spot on the list because it's basically just the next progression of power creep from Crusher Ball, right? So if you've been following the game for a long time, you have Crusher Ball, which is just very simple. The card you respond to comes and play tapped. Then you have Giant Ball that came out some odd number of sets later that says the chosen card, you choose it and it gets tapped, and then you draw a card, and now you have a battle card that does all that. On top of it, it's a blocker and has 5k combo power. So there's that progression of power creep with Crusher Ball and Giant Ball into this. This card is absolutely insane. No doubt in my mind it's going to be a 3 to 4 F staple in just about every single yellow deck going forward. It's just that insane of a card. So I think this one's pretty obvious to see from this point. Then we have Son Goku Divine Presence. So there were a lot of red cards that were really strong throughout the course of 2021, mostly in the King Vegeta turn 2 aggro deck, but even cards like King Piccolo, for example, as well. But the reason I list Divine Presence is because even with all those red hits that made red go from like the strongest color for a long time to arguably, in my opinion, the weakest color at the current point, Son Goku Divine Presence is the card that's basically carrying red on its back right now. It's between this and like Broly Crown Retribution, but Broly Crown didn't come out in 2021, so I couldn't talk about it in this video. But yeah, Divine Presence is definitely the other card carrying red because it's just so powerful. Basically arrives for 2 red, you play it, you get 2 30k swings, you get to search a battle card for 5k combo. It is just that insane of a card, and once red gets some more solid support, I'm sure it'll be very easy for red to bolster back up into the ranks of a higher tier color. And Goku Divine Presence, just about no matter what red deck you play, is probably going to be at the forefront of that strategy. And the final card I want to talk about in today's videos, guys, is Oceana Shenron Negative Energy Explosion. This one might also be a bit questionable, but in my opinion deserves a spot on this list because it is now the generic floodgate that every single deck can play. Whether you're playing blue, green, red, yellow, or black, you're able to play Oceana Shenron. It's always 2 cost during your opponent's turn, and as long as you play it, your opponent now has to mill 4 cards, which a lot of times might not seem as good as like Topo making them pitch 2, but yeah, just the fact that this can be played in any deck, and I definitely expect us to see more play in all types of different colors of decks going into 2022. So that's why this made the list for me. But anyways, guys, I want to know in the comments below, what do you think? What on this list do you agree with, disagree with? What did I miss? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.